Hello, welcome back to the channel. So this week's vlog is taking us to Loch Fyne in Inveraray on Scotland's west coast. I'm filming it from my kitchen because I've managed to delete the intro that I filmed at the time. It was a Friday night and I was trying to race up after work to catch low tide for a bit of foraging. I missed it, so I headed straight to the George Hotel in Inveraray for a bite to eat and a few beers, and I had a few too many beers, quite frankly. Also get up to some foraging, some fishing and some free diving as well, and we'll take a look round about Inveraray Castle. So stay tuned and see what I got up to. Hello, you probably still can't see me, but apologies for the very random introduction to the vlog. I knew it was going to be tight. I left straight after work, traffic wasn't on my side. They say tide and time waits for no man, neither does daylight either, unfortunately. So I reckon if I got there maybe 20-30 minutes earlier, I could have actually probably got some mussels and stuff, but I did get about a dozen cockles, so that's a start. I'm away for a couple of days, so it's not the end of the world, and let's see what we can get up to. I've basically now driven along to Inveraray, and my plan is that I'm going to head along to the George Hotel and I'll maybe see if I can get my dinner in there and a couple of pints of beer. Love the George Hotel. If you've never visited, go to Inveraray just to go there. Food's great, atmosphere is amazing, good drinks and stuff. In the summer they've got an amazing beer garden as well. I think it was actually voted one of the best in the country. So that's the plan, just going to go along here, pretty chilled night. If I do manage to get dinner, I'll get some footage of what I get, and I'll probably catch up with you tomorrow. The George Hotel sits on the main street and is a beautiful 160-year-old building. They've got a few areas to eat, and I chose to eat tucked up in the back as I was being a bit of a weirdo filming my dinner. I was dying for a beer and I started with attendance, which went down a treat. For my starter, I had hand-dyed scallops with Café de Paris butter, which were cooked to perfection. For my main, I had pan-fried cod with pea, parsley and asparagus risotto, and this was topped with a lemon butter emulsion. And I washed this down with a pint of West 4. And finally, for dessert, I had lemon posset with shortbread and a fruit compote. I'm not normally a dessert guy, but this was fantastic. After dinner, I popped through to the wee bar, and I was delighted to get myself a spot by the fire. This was to be the beginning of my hangover the next day, because I then moved on to the Guinness and a whiskey. On the weekend, there is always live music on later in the evening, so I went back through to the main bar where Mark for the G33s were getting started. I then enjoyed some more whiskey for their massive selection. The atmosphere was great, with people getting up, dancing the night away. Hello, so I'm back in the van. What a night I've had. George Hotel in Inveraray literally never disappoints. One of my favourite places in the entire country. Friday, Saturday night, usually got live music on. Food is incredible. Seafood, these scallops were just ridiculous, quite frankly, as was the cod. But they've got live music on Friday, Saturday nights. It can sometimes be a bit hit and miss. I've had some pretty poor people, to be fair. The night was incredible, kept the place lively, everybody was bouncing. One of the things I love most about the George Hotel in Inveraray is that some of the places you go, depending where you are, Isle of Skye, Inverness, North Coast 500, Edinburgh, wherever it is, sometimes it's just full of tourists. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way, because I'm a tourist, because I'm from Glasgow, I'm not from these places either, so I'm also a tourist. I don't mean that in a bad way, but the thing I love about the George Hotel in Inveraray is that there's also locals in there. It's not a bullshit place, it's not a kid-on place. This place has been in place for hundreds of years. The locals still keep coming. They're some of the nicest people that you'll ever meet. You'll just have a great time. I've literally never had a bad time in my entire life in that place, and genuinely for a period, me and my partner would come up constantly. Amazing. Had a great night, which is why it's 1:25 in the morning. I didn't mean to stay out this late, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But I just had a great night, drinking Guinness, drinking beer, drinking whiskey, bands playing, talking to people, just fantastic. If you've never heard it before, the George Hotel in Inveraray, go. It's about as simple as that, to be honest with you. So I'm going to get to bed, I'm going to get asleep, I'm not going to set an alarm. I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to see what happens. So, I'll catch up in the morning. Probably a wee bit worse weather than I am now. Good afternoon. What a night last night in the George Hotel in Inveraray. Always a great night in there, always is. Food was fantastic. Always go for the seafood when I'm there as well, because it's always so fresh and well cooked. Some lovely drinks. Far too many pints, far too many whiskies. which is why I've got a bit of a sore head this morning and decided to have a bit of a lie-in, which is why it is now the afternoon. But it was great. Got talking to the guy who was singing in there, Mark. He plays in a band called the G33s. Really nice guy, and he had everybody up singing and dancing, which was brilliant. I love the George Hotel because it seems to have the perfect mix. Sometimes when I go all over Scotland, you'll go to a pub and it'll just be full of locals but no tourists, or it'll be full of tourists and no locals. George Hotel seems to have the perfect mix every time, where there's a balance of both, and you just get speaking to people. It's one of the things that I love most when I go about, is just get chatting to people from all over. So got speaking to a guy, Andy, from Wigton last night. I've been to Wigton, you've seen on previous blogs. Just really nice guy. Got talking about Scotland and everything else, and then he introduced me to his wife's cousin, Tracy, and Tracy's very kindly allowed me to go to her property and go diving, which I was going to maybe do today, but with this hangover I don't think free diving's a smart choice, so I'm going to recover a bit today and take it easy. And I think the plan is maybe early tomorrow morning I'll go there. Now, I've been there previously, and I know that there's scallops. I got scallops the last time. I don't know if there still is. I hope there still is. But aye, that would be amazing if I could go there tomorrow and get myself some scallops. The rest of the day I'm just going to take it easy, to be honest with you. It's already into mid-afternoon, the sun will start setting about the back of 4, so I think what I'm going to do is go back to the car, get my fishing stuff set up, and maybe just go and have a couple of casts. Nothing extreme, and then a bit later on, I think low tide's about 5, half 5 the night, which will be pitch black, but I think I'll get the head torch on. So I really want to get some mussels as well. I want to get as much seafood as I possibly can to have a nice cook up maybe tomorrow as well. But what a glorious day it is in Inveraray. The loch is like a mirror, clear blue skies, just absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to maybe get a bit of drone footage of the castle and things like that. That's where I am now. I'm in the grounds of Inveraray Castle, which is home to the Duke of Argyll. Now, the funny thing is, the Duke of Argyll is a member of Clan Campbell, and I'm a Campbell, so I'm wondering to myself, am I entitled to a wee bit of that castle? So I'm going to get looking into that. If any of you are lawyers, please let me know if I've got a chance. I think I already know the answer, but it's got to be worth a look. So anyway, stop rabbling on. I'm going to go a walk about Inveraray, get my fishing stuff, and I'll catch up with you. Inveraray is around 90 minutes from Glasgow, and a beautiful drive along Loch Lomond, Loch Long, and finally Loch Fyne. The town as it is today was built around the late 1700s. The main street has shops, cafes and restaurants to wander around, and just past the main town lies the Loch Fyne Hotel and Spa, which I've stayed in several times. I love how all the shops have the same black and white signs, and one of my favourites is the sweet shop, which has lots to choose from, including some old school classics. The whisky shop across the road for the George also has a fantastic selection, and there's often tasters to try out when you visit. I always recommend Samphire Restaurant to anybody visiting the town. Their food is amazing, especially their fresh seafood. The George sits near the top of the main street and it can't be missed. Can't be seen in the footage, but they've got a huge beer garden at the back sitting on the edge of the loch. They've won awards for this space, and I always enjoy visiting in the summer, where there is often live music and a great atmosphere. The most striking part of the town has got to be Inveraray Castle. Every time I visit, I slow down coming near the bridge and take a look at it. Building for this was started in 1746 by the 3rd Duke of Argyll, and it's still home to the present day Duke, who is also the chief of Clan Campbell. The castle is open in the tourist season to visitors, and it boasts beautiful gardens and an impressive selection of weapons lining the walls inside. There is a great easy walk through the grounds up to a watchtower overlooking the town that offers stunning views up the loch, and I highly recommend a visit. Hello, so I have had a wee walk about Inveraray, really nice, and I've now come back to my usual wee favourite spot. I've got my fishing rod set up. The tide is dropping, as you can see. Low tide is, I think, about 10 past 5 roughly. This place fishes best at low tide, but what my plan is, I'm going to fish the tide down. When it gets to low tide, I'm going to go and pick, hopefully, predominantly mussels, but hopefully some more cockles, and some whelks would be also nice. That will be in the pitch black, so I'll show you a bit of footage, but it's just going to be darkness. But let's see if we can get a fish before then. Not the best of conditions, clear blue sky, has never really fished very well here for me. Usually prefer it when there's a bit of a ripple on the water. I think it makes the fish a bit more comfortable when it's still like this. I've never had much success, so I'm just getting my excuses in nice and early. But let's go and have a couple of casts. I'll take you with me and see if we can catch something. Okay, so first cast, I'm just using a blue and silver 12 gram super sprat. tend to find anything sort of blue and silver to be best. Let's see if we can get a fish on the first cast. It's a pretty terrible first cast, but who knows. Oh, and I've got quite a big tangle in my line, which isn't great. Let me see if I can get this fixed. Cast number 2, cast number 1 was so bad, it caused that huge tangle in my line and I had to retie my lure. So let's see, it's absolutely beautiful here. The loch is like a mirror and the light is beautiful as the sun is starting to set. So even if I don't get a fish, which I hope I do, it's a nice place to spend a bit of time. Now, one of the big issues here is there's loads of weeds close in, which is one of the reasons it fishes best at low tide. Now, I've normally got waders which allow me to get out an extra few feet and get over some of the worst weeds, but I couldn't be bothered putting them on, is the honest answer. So I'm just in my wellies, so I might encounter a wee bit more weed than usual, but hey ho. So I've had a couple of casts now and I've just had a really big fish follow me right in all the way. Didn't want to take the lure, but it followed it right into this line of seaweed in front of me. So quite often when that happens, if you cast back to the same place you did, quite often the fish will still be there and you can alter the retrieve. You can maybe try and go a bit quicker, a bit slower. Some of the times these wee things can just entice the fish into taking. Sometimes not though, but let's see if we can get him to get a bit of interest again. Oh, I don't know if you caught that, but I just had one on, very small sea trout, very small, and in my rush to get the camera on, I didn't strike the fish properly. Same as the last time, I actually seen it following in. I could just see a wee wake in the water. But encouraging, they're there, and they like this type of lure. I'll just try and pay more attention to actually fishing if I hook another one, rather than worrying about if my camera's on or no. But good fun. Okay, so I've just moved a couple of feet and first cast, get a fish on, looks again like a wee small sea trout, but what they lack in size they make up for in fight, and they're absolutely beautiful. So let me get this one unhooked and get it back as quickly as I possibly can. Stunning little fish, an amazing fight. Let's get it back. There you go. Fantastic. Good. Well, that's me go at least one. Let's see if we can find his big brother, his sister, a bit more size. I don't know if this is coming across on water, but just in line with the houses, just in here, I don't know if you can see the wee sort of disturbance. Looks like a load of fish moving, like lots all jumping at once. Now, that's usually relatively common in the summer when the mackerel are in and bigger fish or seals are chasing them from underneath and they come bubbling up at the surface. But I mean, we're definitely over summer now, so that would be quite unusual, although mackerel can hang around surprisingly long. But if the fish are jumping there, I'm going to take a wee walk, see if I can get a cast in amongst them and see what's what, hopefully. Now, I'm walking quite fast, and obviously I've not zoomed in with the GoPro, but hopefully you can see this just a wee bit clearer now, the movement. Let's investigate. If it was mackerel, that'd be amazing. They're one of the tastiest fish in the sea. But let's have a crack at them and see what's going on. That is kinda right in the zone there, the lure that I've got on. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This feels like a much nicer fish. Not huge, but With hazard bigger than the last one. I'd imagine a small sea trout. Not too small. And it's literally just came off right at the edge. Lovely, lovely fish. Now what I think I might do is I might actually just measure this wee guy, and if he's in size I might just keep him. Season's coming towards an end, a decent sized fish, and they taste amazing, so let me just get it checked. Okay, so I checked that wee guy and he is right on the limit for keeping, so I have kept him. Again, I don't keep most of the fish that I catch, try to put the really small ones back. I've been told, and I don't know how true this is, but it sort of makes sense to me. In the past I'd have tried to only keep much bigger fish than that and put ones like that back. But I was told the much bigger fish are the much better spawning fish as well, like the females will have more eggs and stuff. So the reality is the bigger fish actually, if you take them, potentially you're taking out much more eggs and stuff like that out of the environment. So you're actually better to keep the ones that are just at the size limit, really, because they aren't as prolific a breeder as the bigger fish. Again, is that true? I don't know, I'm no marine biologist. Kind of makes sense to me, so that's what I'm going to do. And again, I don't take loads and loads, I take a handful a year, and the season will be coming to an end. I'll probably only get maybe 1 or 2 other sessions before the season ends, if any, depending on my work and things like that. So oh, I didn't even realise, well, there we go, there is the answer to what was bubbling on top of the water. Tiny, tiny mackerel, really tiny. Now that mackerel will make incredible pike bait, and my nephew is getting into pike fishing, so I'm going to keep that for him. Fantastic. So that wee mackerel there, the pike season will be coming up in the winter, and joey mackerel like that make amazing pike bait, and there's millions of them about, so you don't need to worry too much about taking a smaller one like that. So my nephew will hopefully be pretty happy that I've got my bit of bait for the freezer for the winter. But aye, that explains what all the bubbling on the top of the water was earlier. So this is a bit rubbish, I feel as if I'm constantly saying, I don't know if you can see, but there is no zoom on a GoPro, but right in line with my finger, it's a bit of a disturbance on the water, and it's an otter. It's an otter swimming about looking for its dinner. Amazing to see. Oh, and then it's just ducked under there. So potentially not great for my fishing, but that's fine. I've got my one that I want to keep, and I hope he can catch his dinner as well. Okay, so I have ditched the fishing rod. I've picked up my pool box with my 13 cockles for last night's terrible attempt at foraging. And low tide's the back of 5. It's currently 20 past 4. So my plan is to go down to the shoreline and follow the tide as it goes out. That allows me the maximum amount of possible time in terms of gathering. Now I don't need millions, I've already got a decent wee amount of cockles, so some more to top that up would be lovely. Mussels, in terms of when I'm picking, I count them, and obviously most of the time I'm just picking for myself, but the odd time I'll give something like my uncle or my friends. I kind of try and count like 25 mussels as a portion. I think to myself, right, if I can gather that for myself, that's a decent wee bowl of mussels, that's a decent feed. So don't need millions of them at all. So hopefully get that, and hopefully get whelks. I absolutely love whelks, but obviously they're really small. Out of the freedom, they're probably the mussels, cockles and whelks, they're probably the hardest to spot, but once you get your eye in, it isn't too bad at all. So hopefully I can get myself some of them. I've already now got a fish in the bag. Let's see how we get on with this, and then hopefully tomorrow, if I do get out diving, hopefully I can add some scallops to it and we're in for a bit of a seafood feast. So the light's going to start fading very quickly. I'm probably not going to film very much of me picking them, because I've done that in detail in some of my other videos. You can go back and watch my catch and cooks about what I look out for and stuff like that. So I'm only going to bore you, I'm going to just get picking, and I'll catch up with you when I'm done. I just wanted to stop and show you that light. Getting quite successful, got a couple more cockles so far, but it's absolutely stunning. How you doing? So that's me back at the van. Didn't get any mussels. Really weird. I think I said it in one of my previous videos. That location that I go to used to have basically an unlimited amount of mussels, like as many as you could possibly want. I didn't find any. Granted, it was dark, so hopefully it's just that, but a wee bit concerning. Good news is I got plenty of cockles and I got some whelks as well, so we've got that at least, which is good. I was going to fish on a wee bit through the dark. I was in the middle of doing it and my lure snapped off, and I just took that as a sign to finish up. So I'm now back in the van, I'm going to get my dinner on, going to get some nice pork chops on the go. I'm just going to sit and chill the rest of the night, so I'll probably not catch up with you any more of the night. I'll catch up with you tomorrow, but the plan is to go free diving to hopefully see if I can get some scallops. So fingers crossed, and I'll catch you in the morning. Good morning. Good morning from a very cold Inveraray, but a very beautiful Inveraray. It is 7 AM. It is very frosty. I don't know if you can quite make it in the grass, but I've been up for the back of 4. I just woke up and couldn't get back to sleep, even though I sort of tossed and turned for a while. So I've got up, I've jumped into the co-op, I've got myself a hot chocolate to get a bit of a heat in me. Going to get a bit of breakfast, and then the plan is I'm going to head along to the dive site and hopefully go diving for some scallops. Now the only thing is, the type of suit that I've got is you need to lube it up to get in, which is usually absolutely freezing, so I'm hoping to maybe even boil a bit of water to make the sort of water mixture a wee bit warmer, but it's still going to be cold getting in that suit. Once you're in, it's absolutely fine. I've dove year round in it, so that's no problem, but I'm just dreading actually getting into the suit. So keep your fingers crossed for me that after all this effort there is actually some scallops when I go diving. Well, I know there's scallops, I've been before, but let's hope that I can actually get them basically. So that's the plan. Going to have this, going to have a bit of breakfast, just let that sort of settle so that I don't get a stitch or anything while I'm in the water, and I'll probably catch up with you at the site. Hello, so I've had a bite to eat and I'm just trying to give myself a bit of time for it to settle before I go diving so that I don't get a stitch. Yesterday when I came a walk up to Inveraray Castle, I was just sort of walking about and I happened to notice a little patch of wood sorrel, which is this stuff here. Now, wood sorrel's been in one of my videos before when I went a walk up to Pinecone Point at Dunkeld. It's beautiful, it's like zesty, I would say, like a sort of zesty flavour. So I thought to myself what I can do is come and pick some, and I can use it to stuff that sea trout that I caught yesterday when I cook it later on. I thought that would be quite nice. So I've just come along to pick some. Just going to get a wee bundle of it, and then later on I can cook up my sea trout with that stuffed inside it basically. So that's the plan, get some of that and I'll catch up with you when I'm diving. My underwater housing meant that you can't hear me talking, but I'm basically saying that I'm ready to go and that I just need to stick my hood up and my mask on. Dive was pretty much a write-off as my mask and snorkel kept filling up with water. So unfortunately I ended up spending lots of time in the shallows foraging for shellfish. I did find one scallop, but unfortunately it was a very small queenie scallop, so I put it back to grow bigger. It was good to get out for one final dive of the year, but disappointing I didn't get a chance to gather some of the king scallops in the deeper waters. Hello, so that dive was terrible. Couple of things, my mask was leaking, which was flooding water in, which isn't very reassuring when you're hoping to be diving a couple of metres below the sea. My snorkel had a bit of a kink in it, which wasn't great either in terms of getting air in. And then the wind got up quite a bit and it got quite choppy on the water, which means when you're free diving you're supposed to do what's called a breathe up, which is basically where you're on the surface, you're just relaxing yourself to slow your heart rate and stuff down, and you're breathing, make sure you've got enough oxygen in you for obviously your dive, because there's no tanks like scuba diving. Because it was so choppy and because of the kink in my snorkel, the water was coming in the top of it, constantly flooding me with salt water, so I wasn't able to get an efficient breathe up, which was very disappointing. I seen a wee queenie scallop which I got a bit of footage of as well. I just left it and put it back. I got a wee handful of mussels, so I think they'll just go in with my cockles and probably my whelks as well actually. Going to get a wee cook up going. So back in the van now. Also had another bit of a nightmare. The gas in the vans ran done. I do have a spare bottle, it is under there. I can't be bothered pulling it out, but luckily I've got this, so I'm getting a wee cup of tea on the go and a pot noodle, and I'm going to get the van tidied up because it's absolutely upside down. and I'm going to head along to the wee sort of favourite usual spot. I'm going to get a fire going, I'm going to get a big cook up. Hello, so change of plan. I went to go to my wee sort of favourite spot where I pick the mussels and stuff. I was going to have a fire and I was going to do a bit of cooking outside. There was just a bit of a wild wind on the loch, it was kind of going a bit crazy, and I thought that's just not going to be good. So I've decided to come home and I'm going to do the cooking in the house, and I'm starting first and foremost with the wee sea trout, and then I'm going to move on to the cockles and mussels. So for the sea trout, I've just gutted it, I've put a bit of salt and pepper on it, I've got a wee bit of butter, and I'm just going to put that in the cavity. It's going to obviously pour it, and I've got here the wood sorrel that I picked earlier on as well. I'm not going to chop it up or anything like that because it's going to wilt as it goes in the oven basically, and I'm literally just going to stick that in the cavity along with the butter. Never done this before, but it's nice and zesty. Lemon and stuff like that tends to go nice with fish, so what can really go wrong? And I'm just going to pop it in the oven and I'll show you when it's finished. Okay, so the fish is ready. As you can see, the wood sorrel's all wilted down. Let's give it a go. Perfect. The meat is just falling away through the bone. Let's get some of that wood sorrel. Tastes amazing. The wood sorrel is very, very subtle, as is the sea trout itself. That's why I don't really do very much with it. Just a bit of salt, pepper and butter. The butter complements it really, really well. But aye, fantastic. Pretty happy with that, and I would do it again. So loved that. That was really, really nice. I would definitely do it again. I mean, it's nothing spectacular or anything, but the wood sorrel definitely added a wee bit to the trout. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the cockles, mussels and whelks. I'm just going to do it on the one pan, and I'm going to cook that with smoked streaky bacon, butter, thyme, leeks and cider. So let's see how that goes. So I've just emptied out. I've got cockles, I have got some whelks, and under here I have got some mussels as well, so I'm just going to run them under fresh water, get rid of the seaweed, get rid of the stones, get rid of as much grit as I possibly can. So that's me got everything washed now. I've took the beards off of the mussels and gave it a wee rinse. You can see there's just bits of seaweed and stuff that was in there, and an empty shell that I'd gathered as well. I forgot to mention with the cockles, what I've done is I put them in a cool box with some seawater, and they've been in there for well over 24 hours now as well. The reason that I do that is they live in the sand, and quite often if you cook them pretty quickly, they'll literally be full of sand, like I mean loads of it, and they're just absolutely horrible to eat. So hopefully that bit of time in there has allowed them just to purge out any sand that was in them. The water that I put in was really clear and fresh. The water that I've just poured out was sort of quite dirty and brown, so hopefully that is the case. One other step I do as well, because these mussels, because they're not rope grown, they can be a wee bit grittier as well. So what I'm basically going to do is steam them first, take them out and remove the liquor, and that's so that I can remove the liquor and basically get rid of any grit that gathers in the bottom. Normally we like these sort of dishes, I would cook everything in the one pot and stuff like that, but just to minimise any grit that goes into it, I'm going to just steam them on their own first, and I'm going to toss them through the sauce just to sort of finish with a bit of the liquor that I've retained. Okay, so while they're on steaming, I'm going to just prep the rest of the stuff, starting with chopping these leeks. I actually think for the amount of cockles and stuff that I got, I'm just going to use one leek. Don't worry, I'll use that for another recipe anyway, so that's fine. Now I'm just going to slice up some smoked streaky bacon. Again, I'm not going to use all of that, just, I don't know, maybe half. Now just going to add a huge chunk of butter to a pan. I'm just going to let that melt. Now just going to add the bacon at the same time and let the fat render out along with the butter. Now that the bacon's had a bit of time to sort of render its fat out and get into the butter, I'm going to add in the leeks because I want them to soften down. And I'm going to give them a couple of minutes to soften as well. I'm also just adding in a bit of fresh thyme. And again, I'm going to just give it a couple of minutes, keep stirring it, let the bacon release its fat, kind of mash up the leeks a wee bit to allow them to release their flavour. Let the thyme and stuff all infuse as well. Okay, so that's now had a couple of minutes to all sort of soften up. I've also put a bay leaf in there. I've now just turned the temperature up a bit, and I'm just going to add in another splash of cider. Again, I'm just going to let that sort of alcohol cook out for a wee bit, and then I'll add in some of the stock for the mussels and the cockles that have come out of that as well. Now that's had a chance to reduce down nicely, I'm just going to add in some of this liquor for the mussels, the cockles and the other cider. Just being careful not to put in any grit. I'm now just going to let that reduce down a wee bit more before adding back in the mussels, the cockles and the whelks, and then that is us done. We're just going to add the shellfish back into the sauce, give it a stir through, and we are sorted. Making sure everything gets coated in that sauce. I'm ready to put it in a bowl. So there we go, that is it finished. I've got cockles, mussels and whelks, streaky bacon, butter, leeks and thyme and cider, sorry. So let's just see if I can find a nice big cockle. Now the problem with cockles is when you actually cook them, a lot of them actually just fall out the shell. So what you end up with is a lot of empty shells, and then the meat's just randomly falling about like that there. But that's fine. Dip it in some of the sauce. Superb. Cockles are sweet, and that's sort of balanced out with the cider and the saltiness for the bacon. I've got a mussel as well. I'm going to do the exact same thing, get it dipped in the sauce. Fantastic. Superb. So I'm going to finish here, guys. Going to tan the rest of these. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, leave recommendations for any sort of recipes you want to see me trying, other things you want to see me catching and cooking, places you want me to go. I'm really unsure when the next video is, where it's going to be. I don't have anything necessarily in the diary yet, but you'll see it when it's ready. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.